Okay, so we'll get started. A few people might still be dialing in, but first of all, I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us tonight for our GFIT Wellness webinar. A couple of quick housekeeping issues before we start. The first is that the call will be recorded, and for those of you that are not able to make it, we'll be sharing it on YouTube and you'll be able to catch it on the replay. Secondly, we would really encourage that people ask questions during the webinar. There's a place at the bottom of the screen that says Q&A. You can just type your questions in there and JP will be answering those at some point during the webinar. We're going to continue to offer the mental health and live exercise programs to the community at no cost during the pandemic. And obviously we want to ensure that we're providing some extra support right now to help us manage through these difficult times. And the topic of tonight's webinar is Take Back Your Emotional Wellness, Tools to Deal with Stress, hosted by JP Madden. JP is a mindset coach who works with high-achieving individuals from sports professionals to business leaders, helping them reach their full potential. He supports these leaders and to accelerate their professional development and teaches the mindset that creates peak performance. And his client can count on him and his coaching to resolve urgent challenges in their personal and professional lives, which I think we can all relate to right now in the challenge that we're facing. So thank you so much, JP, for joining us. We're super grateful. I'll turn it over to you, but if it's okay, I wanted to start off with asking you a question.
Sure.
Okay, so stress is a real catchphrase right now, or it's a word that's being thrown out a lot, especially in the media.
Yeah.
So how does stress relate in particular with depression and anxiety?
Great question. And there are so many different interpretations and definitions. So it's probably a good thing that we throw this out there just so everybody listening is on the same page. What comes to mind initially is, I have this expression, stress is a reality. Depression and anxiety and other disorders, they are a malady. What I mean by that is that stress is the trigger, and it is a reality in everybody's lives. The differentiator between each and every one of us is how we adapt to it, how we react to it, what effect it has on us. You know, you're a bodybuilder. GFIT is a group of coaches that help people improve physically. Well, weightlifting is applying a load on a muscle to create stress and to create fractures and for growth. So stress in and of itself is not something I prescribe that we need to be avoiding or eliminating in our lives. Far from it. My mindset is focused around helping my clients, helping everyone understand where it shows up in their lives and really becoming aware of how they are reacting to it. And are those reactions serving them, or are they not serving them? Are they creating growth and opportunity, or are they creating pain, discomfort, and exacerbating challenges? And I don't use that word comfort lightly, because we all use that phrase, you know, got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yes, but what does that discomfort inspire? How do you respond to that discomfort? So I don't know if that answers your question at all, but yeah, stress is a reality. I think it'd be worth going on to say maybe a bit more about anxiety and depression and the other maladies that manifest themselves. I will kind of lead off this by saying I am not a psychiatrist or a trained professional in any way. I am a coach, and I'm a mindset coach. I work with clients to optimize how they think and how they approach opportunities and challenges in their lives, just to make sure that they can maximize their results. In my life, I've invested a lot of time in understanding the mind and how things optimize, how we optimize events that happen around us. So my study in stress and learning how to deal stress, I think really took a big turn about 25 years ago when I dealt with my own issues with alcohol. I got sober 25 years ago, and success in getting and staying sober is highly dependent on not just managing stress, but the key here is managing the thinking around stress. How's that for an answer, Grant?
Oh, that's great. That's
think
great.
we're on a level playing field here? Or?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's safe to say that everyone is extremely stressed right now. So
yeah,
any ways that you can help us manage stress right now, like at this particular time, will be
sure.
extremely beneficial to all of us.
Yeah, and maybe again, I elaborate a little bit on the whole idea that stress is normal, and it's when it becomes something debilitating. You know, mental disorders like anxiety and depression are a real thing. And just as I let off, I'm not a medical professional. I do encourage anybody out there who feels overwhelmed and feels like they aren't able to manage, that there are resources out there. And I'm getting Tricia before the end of this session to make sure she adds into the comments the resources, a few of the resources available to us here in the city to reach out to and get support. But my hope is that what we're going to cover today is going to give you some tools to rethink about how you approach stress, rethink what options you have, and perhaps implement a few things, techniques and methodologies that are covered with under the realm of CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, that are proven methodologies for overcoming the disabilitating sides of stress. Maybe it'd be a good time to throw out to the audience a question. We've got a poll that I got Trish to put together, just so I understand where our audience is at, and it's about just where people are feeling stress. So I'd like to get everybody to contribute and let me know of everybody out there. I've got a fair number signed in here, and I'd love everybody to participate and let me know, are you feeling stress? And if so, how do you identify that stress you're feeling? We'll give a few moments just to let people digest that question and respond. And of course, these are all anonymous. But no question that this day and age we are living in, we don't have to look very far for the stress. And candidly, if I was able to fill out this, I would be saying feeling anxious. Webinars are not a common thing for me, and having an audience for anybody, they say speaking in front of a crowd is one of the top fears of anybody, and the reality is virtually it's still anxiety inducing. So breathing deep. maybe we wrap this up. How about Trish? We'll give just a few more seconds for people to finish this off. And I'll calculate that. And just before we proceed, I'd love to know what the answers are. Okay, so about half, we got 46% coming back saying that they are feeling stressed in general. Another almost half feeling anxious. Now I asked in the, for if you answered other, to let me know. There's a few that it came back that way. So somebody came back saying, is there not an option for all of the above? Fair comment. Well said. Very good. Okay, well, with that understanding, thanks Trish for running that. That helps me in understanding just to the degree of which we spell out really what this talk is going to address. And I'm glad to hear that it's stress in general and that nobody's jumping out really identifying as what may be called clinically depressed or chronically anxious or suffering from anxiety attacks. As I said, those are real things, and there is help in the city, and I'm happy to direct anybody. Where I'm working with is we're not quite right. We're not getting the most out of ourselves. It's affecting ourselves and our performance. It's affecting us and our immediate relationships. And how do we tackle that head on rather than just resign ourselves to the stress and just hope it goes away? So I'm going to share with you a slide, and just the one thing it talks about is the effects of stress and the effects on the body. It's easy to recognize that stress is an annoyance and it's interfering. And I'm going to talk later on about the brain science, about some of the thinking sides of the downsides of stress. But it is pervasive. And if we look at this slide here, talking about the effects of stress on the human body, if you think about it, when we're in stress, we're tense, we're clenching all the time. It's affecting our digestive system and our pancreas and stomach. It's affecting our heart because our muscles are under strain, our heart rate is affected, and we're also flooded often with an unsustainable level of hormones, including adrenaline. And like I said, I'll talk more about our brain, but brains and nerves are, if they're constantly firing and wiring, that wears us out. So the effects of stress on the body can't be underestimated. I was looking at a study recently, and it talked about how stress is the more pervasive in the Western world, especially these days. The stat that blew me away was that 1 in 6 of all Americans are taking antidepressants right now. I didn't see stats on Canadians, but knowing how closely we parallel the US, I can't imagine that we're very far off on that. And that's a reflection of stress, and it's a reflection of how we respond. And the beautiful thing about CBT is that it is a non-medical way to deal with stress, and it's a way to deal with these more clinical responses to stress, including anxiety, including mood disorders like depression, like obsessive compulsive disorder. All of these things can be addressed by CBT. And the idea is that, if stress can affect our immune system, isn't it fair to assume that being free from stress and living healthy can also prevent cellular stress and prevent all those other things of dis-ease. So in the mind of getting us more aligned, we've talked a lot about stress. I know I'm getting worked up talking about stress, and I would like to retune things. And if you'll permit me, I'm going to take everybody through a bit of a meditation exercise. I've got a little clever twist at the end, and it's all to demonstrate a purpose about the brain science behind why CBT works. So I'm going to take you through a meditation, and hopefully that's going to, well, hopefully it's going to calm me down, but hopefully it's going to calm everybody down to help everybody get aligned with what we're aiming for here. And we'll begin. I just want to get a poll so I understand what the audience's experience is like on this. We're going to put up a poll again, another quick one. Do you practice some form of meditation? So how many out there are familiar with meditation and actually practice it? I'd just like to get a sense. This one, it doesn't take as much consideration or contemplation, so we won't leave this up as long as the stress question, but and before we start, the one thing I will mention is we didn't, I don't know if Grant mentioned specifically about throwing questions in the comment box as we go along. I will be making a point of turning to those at the end of the meditation just to see if we have some questions answered, but please feel free to contribute to those. And so we'll look at, see what we can get for a response from that, just so I know. And the tallies are being done. So as we gear up for those results, I will invite everybody just to take a moment, make sure that you're warm enough and that you're seated comfortably. I'll invite you to rest your hands loosely in your lap and just take a couple moments here to allow yourself to take a few nice, long, deep breaths. Hopefully we'll get that survey result.
Should be able to see it there.
I'm not, for some reason. I'm going to play the senior card and technology. There it is. Okay. So we got a small percentage saying daily, bless you, good on you. We have a smaller percentage admitting that they do it when they remember. Exactly half doing it once in a while, but very infrequently, and another bunch not really. Okay, good to know. So we've got a few seasoned pros. And really, meditation is not just a one-size-fits-all, and it's not a one thing for one thing only. What we're about to partake here is a guided meditation, but there's also meditation in silence and contemplative. But we're going to run with a guided meditation where I'm going to invite you to transport yourself. And what I'm looking to do is really invite you to allow yourself to lose yourself in the description that the picture I'm painting and the scenario that we're creating. Allow yourself to feel it. Allow yourself to be there. So we're going to be visiting a beach. So firstly, let's take a long, slow, deep breath in. Hold it for a moment, and then slowly exhale. Just allow any tension to melt away as you gradually relax more and more deeply with each breath. Take another long, slow, deep breath in. Notice the cool air coming in. Breathe in through your nose, filling your lungs. Hold it, and then exhale. Notice the warm air going out. When you breathe out, allow your lungs to empty completely. Take a deep breath again. Take your time. Hold it for a moment, and then let it go. Just let all your thoughts float away. And bring your attention to breathing in and breathing out. You may mentally scan your body, notice if you're holding any tension in your muscles. If you are, just let all that tension melt away with every out breath. Bring your attention to breathing in and out, in and out. Let yourself feel more and more comfortable sitting where you are. Now, in your mind's eye, see yourself descending down a long, narrow wooden stairway towards a beautiful, inviting beach. Your bare feet through the weathered steps. With each step, you feel more and more tension gently melting away from your body. As you continue down the stairway, you notice how you're entering a beautiful, secluded bay. Trees and shoreline surround this amazing, perfect yellow sand. The ocean is a deep shade of blue, and the fine white crests of the waves sweeping towards the shore. You reach the end of the stairway and step down, sinking into the warm, soothing sand. As you rub the sand lightly between your toes, soothing sensation of relaxation gently melts through your entire body. It's so, so warm. You feel the sun melting all your stress. The sounds of the waves crashing over each other calms your mind and allows you to feel even more relaxed. You begin slowly towards the edge of the water and notice the warm sun on your face and shoulders. The smell of the water invigorates you. You take in a deep breath, breathing slowly out, and feel more relaxed and refreshed. Finally, you reach the water's edge and you let the waves flow over your feet. You watch the waves glide smoothly towards you, and then the trails of water flow slowly back out again. The cool water feels soft and comforting as you enjoy the few moments allowing yourself to gaze out on the far-reaching horizon. Overhead, you notice birds soaring high above you. You can hear their calls becoming faint as they glide away. All of these sights, sounds, and sensations allow you to go and relax more and more. As you continue your walk along the beach, you notice a chair resting in a nice, lightly shaded spot where the powdery sand lies undisturbed. You approach this comfortable chair, then you sit down, lie back, and settle in. Take a long, deep breath, breathing slowly out, even more relaxed and comfortable resting in your chair. For a few moments more, you let yourself enjoy the sights and sounds of this beautiful day on the beach. When you're ready, I'm going to lead you away from the beach. We'll be heading towards a big, beautiful cabin overlooking the water. Back up the stairs by the beach, we walk, winding path leading us back. Just one flight of stairs and we're home. You're at the top of the stairs now. But wait, what's on the deck over by the lounge chairs? It's a giant steel tub. As you approach, you see it's filled with ice. Despite every bit of logic available to you, you allow yourself to dip your toe in the water. Oh, it's so cold. Your foot recoils. It actually hurts. It's so cold. You stand staring at the water. Your friends are now around you, daring you to go in. It's hot outside, so you're actually tempted, but you know it's going to hurt. Eventually, after relentless prodding, you agree. One foot, then with the leg. Oh, it hurts. Then the next leg, then all at once you plunge in. The shock overwhelms you. At first you can't breathe. It's the longest 15 seconds of your life and you jump out. All right. Being a little silly there. I'll bring you back now. Bear with me. So the idea there is that there is some impressive things happening with our brain when we allow ourselves to feel and be in a moment. And it has to do with two key parts of our brain. And the first is our amygdala, our reptilian brain. Our reptilian brain, the amygdala, is responsible for the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And in particular, what's of note here is the sympathetic, or the fight or flight response. The interesting thing about the amygdala is it does not recognize time. It does not evaluate. It is just feelings, either good or bad. The amygdala is designed to, amongst other things, protect us. And it's that most primal part of our brain that was designed or evolved to protect us when we were cavemen. And we would be out on the Sahara and looking for danger. And when we spotted danger, any delay in time could cost us our lives. And so the amygdala was responsible for, amongst other things, pumping our bodies with adrenaline and cortisol. Those hormones did a couple of things, the key one of which is rush all of our blood away from non-essential organs and functions to our limbs where we could either fight or flight. The organ that gets left out when that happens is the prefrontal cortex. That's our thinking brain. That's our reasoning brain. That's the part of our brain that looks at past experience and remembers what worked, what didn't work, looks forward and plans forward and says, this is a good decision, this isn't a good decision. So our prefrontal cortex is essential for us to make good decisions, right? And the thing about stress is when it's triggered, when we are triggered by stress, our brain stops working optimally. And the exercise that I took you through with the meditation was hopefully to demonstrate to you, to show you that even though you never left your chair, you were sat there the whole time, your surroundings didn't change. The temperature of the room didn't change. Nothing in your surroundings changed. Ideally, if my voice was soothing to you and you allowed yourself to sink into it, your heart rate would have slowed. Your breathing would have slowed. You would have been more relaxed. You would have had a physical response to only a stimuli that was only being fed to your amygdala through your senses, through your thinking. The next part, where we had the ice bucket, hopefully, again, if that was effectively done, there would have been tension. Your muscles may have tensed. Your heart rate would have raised. Again, you weren't anywhere. You didn't leave anywhere. But your amygdala is so powerful at sending signals to your body to react, to protect you, that it can overtake. So the interesting thing and the beautiful thing about CBT is that it gives us tools to think. We have one last survey I'd really like to get the feedback on from people right now, is how many people are aware of CBT in general? Have you heard of it before? Are you aware of it and understand it? Maybe heard of it, but you only have limited knowledge? Or is this a whole new thing? Just before we get into some of the details of CBT, I'd love to get some feedback on that. So Tricia, you can throw up the survey, please.
It's active.
Okay.
Relaunch if no one's seeing it. Give me 1 second.
Can we, maybe somebody out there, just let us know if you don't see the, can't see, we're getting from, so, oh, there it is. Okay. So again, not a question for much contemplation, just want to get a feel. Have you heard of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy? And if you have, what's how strong is your understanding? Okay. All right. So lots of you have heard of it, but limited knowledge. We got a few people that have good knowledge and would love some pointed questions who understand it well. By all means, throw me some questions that we can get some dialogue going. And a handful of you have never heard of it. Good. Okay. Well, hopefully at the end of this, you come away more informed and inspired to learn even more about it. As I say, I am not a psychiatrist, but I am a big fan of the logic behind it and the tools that make it such an effective therapy. Just very quick, I don't won't bore you with a history lesson, but just for perspective on how long this has been around. Like me, it started in the 60s. It was early in the 60s. I was late in the 60s, but by a Dr. Aaron T. Beck. And he started what was called the cognitive approach. And interestingly, I find funny is the fact that this cognitive approach happened by accident. Beck was doing some clinical studies with patients with depression and severe depression, and he was conducting an experiment to prove something that was actually disproved by the study, and was the birth of this whole cognitive approach. In short, the cognitive approach believes that mental illness stems from faulty cognitions or thinking. Just so we're clear, cognition is the clinical or technical word for thinking. So mental illness stems from faulty cognitions about others, our world, and us. This faulty thinking may be through cognitive deficiencies, like lack of planning, or cognitive distortions, meaning processing information inaccurately. So as I said, cognition is thinking. And as I mentioned before, if we think back to that map of the brain, the cognition under conditions of stress isn't available to us. And the cognitive model says we lead with thoughts. Those thoughts generate feelings, and then those feelings inspire or drive us to do behaviors. And that's very much been in the line of my thinking and my coach approach when I work with clients, is helping them understand that our beliefs dictate how we feel. And those feelings dictate how we act. And inevitably, those actions will reinforce those beliefs. Feelings, as we talked about, are formed in the amygdala. They're hardwired. They're long programmed. We have very little influence over those feelings. What we do have influence over, though, is our thoughts, our beliefs. And what I coach people around is helping them understand that to challenge the thinking that's generating that's generating feelings that create behaviors that cause problems. It's why I love CBT and the principles of CBT so much. Like coaching, they're focused on the present. Unlike many psychiatric therapies that are retrospective, and they look back at your past and they look back at your childhood and psychoanalyze, not to say that there isn't merit in that, but like coaching, CBT is focused on the here and the now, the present. What are we doing now? What are our thoughts and our behaviors now? And what do we need to change now to move forward? I use the example of someone cutting in front of you in line. And this is definitely applicable to today's world. We've got a half-hour wait just to get into Costco these days. And I use the example of you're in line and somebody cuts in front of you. Depending on what your beliefs are, that's going to decide how you feel about that event happening. And those feelings are going to decide your actions. If you feel that that guy has been performed a personal affront to you, that they've been rude beyond belief and it's unforgivable and a slight on society, that's going to get your blood boiling. It's going to make you feel anxious and angry, and it's going to make you or inspire you to take action that's very different than if when you see that person cut in front of you, your belief is, gosh, I wonder if that guy has somewhere important to go. I hope he's all right. If you're angelic, because I don't certainly prescribe to that all the time, I'll be honest. It could be that they had some need that you don't understand. And the belief is perhaps that you hold I'm going to get there eventually. What's another couple minutes? It's not the end of the world. Well, that creates a very, very different feeling. That creates a feeling of acceptance and content, which is not going to generate the same sort of actions as the anger response. They're the exact same situation, but the beliefs and the thoughts that were in place prior to the event, the beliefs and the thoughts through which that event was seen dictate everything else. So as a coach, I look forward. I work with clients to understand their current state and where they want to go based on their beliefs. I love the part of CBT also is that it can be self-led. Yes, there's deeper CBT work that does require and is certainly best executed with a professional practitioner. But there are no shortage of tools within CBT that anybody can pick up on their own and practice on their own. And I'm going to get to those very shortly. The third thing I love about CBT as a coach is once it's ingrained, it imparts transformation. Don't mistake CBT as a quick fix. The therapies or the techniques that make up CBT, a lot of them are long lasting, a few months of diligent, persistent work. But when the work is done and the transformation is experienced and the new way of thinking is learned, real change happens and it holds and it can be applied to other things. As a coach, I am always seeking to give my clients the tools that they are self-empowered beyond our experience. I make the analogy, it's like teach a man to fish. The important thing to remember also about CBT is recognizing that these thoughts that we talk about, as I mentioned, these beliefs are hardwired. For me, that guy who cuts in front of the line, I look back and I can say, yeah, I can see in my past that the way I was raised as a kid, right was right. And if you stepped out of line, if you weren't considerate to your fellow man, you weren't worth your salt. And that was hardwired in me. And so now I find it difficult. It's a challenge for me to be tolerant of people who are acting on what I perceive as being inconsiderate. Those thoughts, those interpretations of a thing like somebody cutting in the line is automatic. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to see that guy cut in line and start going, okay, oh yeah, I remember when my dad said. It's automatic, it's hardwired. Our minds are meaning-making machines. Our minds are constantly looking at our surroundings and trying to make meaning from it. And those meanings are interpreted through our beliefs and our past experience. So the techniques of CBT, I want to touch on real quick, and I will make these slides available to the GFIT team if anybody wants to request them. And as I mentioned, there's some resources that I'm referencing to be available to you guys afterwards. But just real quick, I'll run through a couple of the quick tools. One of the tools of which, obviously, that I think isn't necessarily in the cognitive behavioral therapy modality, but it is a complement, is meditation, which we tried and experienced. For me, the big thing about meditation is it gives us a chance, especially meditation in silence, is it gives us a chance to detach from our thoughts. There's a great book called The Untethered Soul. And I read it many years ago for the first time, and I couldn't make sense of it. It is a very deep and challenging concept, but the principle of it is We are not our thoughts. We are the one observing those thoughts. So I really encourage you to explore and celebrate meditation. But the tools, and these, I'll lead with ones that I believe we can practice on our own, or be given those tools and have a very simple guidance on how to implement them, and they can have an impact. So the first one is cognitive restructuring and reframing, journaling and thought records, successive approximation. This one's interesting, where it's the almost I call it the naturopath approach. It's taking something that is unacceptable for us or too hard to take, and we introduce it in small doses and become accustomed to them. Activity scheduling and behavior activation. Simplest put, decision fatigue and having something, it's too easy to postpone something that we are fearful of or anxious about or stressed about. And this simply just kind of puts it in stone and puts it in our calendar, takes one decision of avoiding out of the equation. And relaxation and stress reduction techniques, like I mentioned, meditation. There's deep breathing techniques. GFIT had a wonderful webinar last week from the Blonde Sovereign, as you'll find her on Instagram, who gave some great advice on meditation and deep breathing. The others require a more practiced hand, and also require, the big thing with these ones is that they require somebody who's impartial and can take the information that you're collecting and reflect back to you a challenge to those and an alternative way of thinking and a deeper dive on each of those points. So role playing, guided discovery, and exposure therapy. So we'll come back to that in a bit, but Grant, that's the crux of what CBT is, and some general ideas of how to implement it. If I can leave with any one piece of that underlined, I really would stress the beginning everything with some relaxation techniques and meditation modalities. But one of the key ones for me is journaling. The key part of the journaling aspect of CBT is around taking that conscious look at what our thoughts are. We remember, when we're in stress, our cognitive function, our ability to look back, our ability to think forward is diminished. So when we will allow ourselves to stop and relax and take deep breaths and affect our posture, our body structure, to diminish the flood of cortisol, diminish the adrenaline, it's important that we understand what were our thoughts. Remember, those thoughts are automatic. They're not hidden, but they are automatic. So CBT really calls upon us to be diligent about understanding when we're feeling stress, when we're feeling dis-ease, and use a journal to track. And this is important to understand. It's not a sentimental journal that you're going to hang on to for ages. This is a pragmatic tool for tracking and uncovering things that have been uncovered before. They're in you. Those thoughts are in you. They're just, they haven't been covered because they are automatic and they're not, we don't have a habit of examining them. So with journaling and tracking not just our behaviors and our feelings when we're in a sense of dis-ease or discomfort, agitation, or depression, whatever that dis-ease is, if we can use a journal and have that to hand and track our thinking, that's step one, is really tracking our thinking over time of what is it that is our prevailing automatic repeating thought, and recognize that it can come in a couple ways. For some, it's one pervasive thought that's repeating continually, and we're almost fixating on that one thought. The other side of it is that there can be a multitude, an almost overwhelming amount of thoughts, and we need to examine those, because chances are those thoughts, although varied, have a detrimental outlook and inspire negative feelings. So if we can understand what those thoughts are, once we have tracked those for a length of time, then the next step is to move on and examine those and challenge those thinking. Remember, our feelings are hardwired, long programmed, and if they're ever going to change, we need to change what inspires those feelings. And what inspires those feelings are our beliefs. And if we're looking over our journal records and we see that we're having continual thoughts and beliefs that are creating a negative mindset and negative feelings, maybe we can find a way to challenge those beliefs. So maybe we can look at that chap who's cut us up in the line and really say, okay, it's not a question of being right or wrong. Is my belief serving me or not? I might be well right that that guy is a jerk for cutting in, but is it serving me? Or would a different mindset and belief generate different feelings that would make me better off? So I'm going to visit the chat box here and see if there's any questions. I got a question here from Veronica asking about any specific app for journaling. If I had hair, it would be gray. So I'd show my age. I'm an old school pen and paper guy. I have tried apps in the past, and I just find that they're not easy enough to pull in front of me, and they can get lost and just the feeling of paper. So not to diminish anybody else who would like to use an app. If anybody in the panel or any of the attendees have ideas on apps, please, by all means, share with us so Veronica can benefit. So Lauren is asking, how would I suggest altering a pattern of self-doubt reactions? So like I said, the beginning stage of this is to be journaling. It's easy to get trapped, or I call it clouded, in the generalities of a negative feeling. The whole category of self-doubt, I would invite you to dig deeper. And when we say self-doubt, I would challenge you with questions about, well, okay, self-doubt about what? Where do you feel deficiency or being deficient? Where are you less than? Is it in your home life? Is it in your work life? Physically, mentally, what is it? And let's dig deep. Okay, so whatever category is, it all boils down to opening yourself up to the idea that maybe it isn't completely true. And if it isn't completely true, then the opposite is possibly true. If I'm believing I'm incapable of performing a work function and that I'm in overwhelm because the job that I've been hired for, I have that classic imposter syndrome, and I feel like I'm overwhelmed and incapable. I got hired for this job. So maybe I ask, well, what did they hire me for? What do I do well? So maybe I am capable, that somebody has faith in me. So where can I succeed? And just that challenging. I don't know if that makes sense there, Lauren, but that the key with the journaling is documenting it so that it's in black and white and we can see it and challenge it to be the potentially and likely the lie that it is, or see that there is more a truth outside of what we're fixating on. So I'll see. Thanks Les for adding some input on the apps. And thank you, Trish, for putting in the resources. I will do a big shout out here to the three that I think are the ones I'm best aware of. ADAM, the Anxiety Disorders Association of Manitoba, their website's web address and phone number is there. Mood Disorders of Manitoba, shout out to my Maria. She volunteers for them and is a peer support counselor for them. And they have depression and anxiety groups that meet on a regular basis. Right now they're meeting virtually, but they still are getting together. And of course, Clinic, that has counselors on site and resources and various training. So thanks, Trish, for putting that up. I'm just looking now. Let's see. Any other, am I missing any questions, Trish or Grant?
JP, if you look at the bottom of the screen, there's a Q&A box, and it looks like there's 4 questions in there as well.
Okay. Okay, so first one, thank you, Grant. Sorry I missed that. What would be one suggestion to someone who is interested in incorporating meditation into their routine for the first time ever? Great question. So I claim to be a Luddite at the beginning, but one bit of technology that I've come across that I think is a wonderful app is called Headspace. It's free for the first 10 days, and really those first 10 days with that app are golden because it's a somewhat guided meditation, but it's guided in that it's walking you through what you should be expecting. So one of the biggest challenges with meditation for many of us, myself included, is I just can't get my head to shut up. And it's just so noisy in there. And this meditation thing is supposed to be silent, but all I can think about is shopping. And then, oh yeah, I'm supposed to call. And by the end of it, 10 minutes later, there hasn't been any silence. That is a natural thing. And the nice thing about Headspace as an app is it guides you through accepting that that's normal and some little helpful tools to deal with that and to manage that so that it becomes less and less intrusive. I hope that answers your question. So the bottom line is, in terms of starting from ground zero, start small. 5 minutes is perfectly cool. It doesn't have to be forever. The whole idea about meditation is quieting the mind and allowing yourself to begin to recognize that your thoughts, they're not you. They're just soundtracks of your life, just not to music. And you are in more control of your thoughts than we realize. Veronica asks, what would be the difference to practice CBT with a qualified practitioner, I'm assuming qualified practitioner, and with a coach? And I can't, none come to mind. I don't know of any coaches in my circle that are actual certified CBT practitioners, because the thing to keep in mind with the CBT is that it is designed and proven effective at dealing with some very significant issues like obsessive compulsive disorder and extreme anxiety with panic attacks and etc. I, as a coach, as I say, I'm a mindset and performance coach. I'm focused on individuals that are a bit more baseline, and I leave the deeper work to the more qualified professionals. The bottom line is CBT is a drug-free methodology for dealing with all sorts of ailments, and I would suggest find somebody who can take you through it at a high level, and if it doesn't seem to be deep enough, then by all means dig deeper. But the difference is really just how deep the issue is, in my opinion. Weldon's asking, journaling is also incredibly helpful in measuring and celebrating progress. Absolutely right. I totally agree with that. It's very easy to forget to celebrate, especially in all this chaotic time. Journaling for and the one thing I didn't talk about, and I hope we've still got some people sticking around. Thank you so much. I'm mindful that we're over our 1 hour allotment. So thank you so much for sticking around. I didn't mention, and I should slap myself on the wrist for this, gratitude journaling. Can't recommend this enough. Fear and anger cannot reside where gratitude lives. Embrace the idea of focusing on things that you can be grateful for, and that is a huge stress reliever. I can't, please, and shout out to anybody, shout out and give it the idea of that. Yes, yeah, gratitude. And you think about it, living in Canada today, where we are, yes, we have challenges, but we have so much to be grateful for. Karen saying she wants to journal, but struggle with what to write down, where to start. So my suggestion there is, again, with the CBT modality and methodology, it is about tracking thoughts that drive feelings. And so it's very different than, say, a gratitude journal. And I recommend, if you're looking for a suggestion of where to start, that's a great one. And be easy on yourself. It's okay to repeat. It's okay to be grateful for the same thing over and over again. You will learn to get grateful, and you will learn to dig deeper. But I recommend making a point of the first thing you do every morning is make a note of 3 things that you are grateful for. And I'm grateful every morning. I'm grateful for just having working legs to put those feet on the ground and start the day, and finish the day with another 3. In terms of journaling otherwise, I do a lot of work with my clients around goal setting and focusing on where we want to go. And that journaling figures into that in a very big way, because far too often when we're goal setting, January 1st, we do our resolutions and we do our goals, and neither of them see the light of day for months, if not the whole darn year, far too often. I challenge my clients to make sure that when they are journaling, they're reviewing and revisiting those goals, those things they want to achieve. And they don't have to be quote unquote BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. They can be the simplest little things. And tracking those and recognizing that, yeah, no, we're not going to be perfect every time with what we're striving for, but we're going to make progress, and track that progress for celebration. I think that was mentioned there, is celebrating success is huge, huge importance. And somebody made a recommendation. I don't know if everybody can see that, but Penzu for journaling online. So I'm going to check that one out. Thank you, Cleo.
Hey, JP, could I just add a little bit to Karen's question?
Please.
About journaling? So last year I was going through a bit of a difficult time, and I had, conducted a little bit of my own research on like how I can just get through this quickly and move forward. And I kept coming across journaling. And with all due respect, I had never journaled in my life. And to be honest, I kind of thought that it was a bit lame. But I thought, okay, I'm going to try journaling and see if it works for me. So what I did is I woke up super early and I went for a walk every day for 20 minutes to half an hour, just to like clear my head and feel the fresh air. It was early before the sun came up. And then I came home and I like bought like a special notebook for journaling. And I just started to I started off by just like writing down thoughts, like how I felt. If I was stressed, if I was pissed off or angry or sad or whatever it was, I just kind of like wrote like aimlessly, knowing that no one's going to read this except for myself. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to worry about spelling or like sounding intelligent or anything like that. And then I just kind of like got out how I felt that particular day. And like you said, it was sometimes repetitive. I might write the same thing 3 days in a row, but I found that that was a way of getting out how I felt without having to talk to someone. So you're kind of like releasing those negative or stressful feelings. And then from there, I went into gratitude and I wrote down 5 things that I was grateful for. And that kind of helped me transition from like feeling stressed to realizing, oh, like I have so many things to be grateful for and I shouldn't be upset or stressed. And then from there, I wrote down 5 things that I wanted to do that day. So that was kind of like my journaling regimen. First, how I'm feeling, what I'm grateful for, and then things that I had to do that day to keep me focused on just moving forward and being productive. And so that's just my 2 cents.
Great suggestion.
From someone who really didn't buy into it. And I and now I'm leaving it 100%. Now I'm telling my clients, oh, you got to journal. It's so helpful. It's great, so.
Yeah, too many people confuse it with Dear Diary, right? It's not about that. It's about making sense of what we're thinking about, for sure. Yeah, so I'm assuming we don't have any more questions. We are over time. So again, I think so many of you have hung on to the end. I hope you found this valuable. This has been a great experience for me. Getting my first webinar like this under my belt. So I appreciate you guys indulging me. I'm used to an audience and immediate feedback with people in front of me. So this was an interesting experience, nonetheless. And I can't give you enough credit, Grant, and the GFIT team for making this available to everybody. This sense of community, I have no doubt, is the new normal. And what we've experienced as a society, those of us that are really embracing it, and those of you like you, Grant, that are championing it, I think it's going to make a new reality for so many out there, that how we collaborate and how we share and the vulnerability that everybody allows themselves, I hope is the new normal.
Well, thanks for the kind words, and thank you especially for joining us tonight and teaching us. We really, really appreciate it. And yeah, just thank you so much, JP.
Thanks.